Hi. See this behind me? This is one of the greatest nations in the world. They're back-to-back World War champions, and we're going to focus on how American lives were shaped throughout the 1940s specifically. The 1940s was an era of much conflict, not just in the United States, but globally. Here we have World War II, which is the main attraction of the 1940s. It starts on September 1st, 1939, when Germany invades Poland, and ends September 2nd, 1945, when the United States dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which made them surrender to end the war. Sadly, the 1940s had one event that left the world in shock. The Holocaust was from the years 1942 to 1945. It consisted of systematic killing of Jews, Slavs, Soviet prisoners, political opponents, and anybody else that the Nazis wanted to kill. See this right here? This man, Adolf Hitler. The whole world probably wants to get this dude a punch in the face. He's responsible for killing 15 to 20 million people, something that we don't want to forget. Towards the late 1940s, we start to see a fear in the growth of communism. On March 12, 1947, President Truman issues the Truman Doctrine. This provides $400 million in aid towards Greece and Turkey to stop the spread of communism. Also, we see a growth in alliances. The NATO is created in 1949. US, Canada, and 10 Western European nations all come together to create the NATO. The NATO states that if one nation is attacked, then everybody else is attacked.
Hi, today I'm going to talk about the 1940s fashion, which was very unique due to the stylistic patterns that it had and the way that it shows people's nationalism. During World War II, there was a lot of limitation of the fabric, so there was only suits for men made. The average men, however, did wear business suits for their daily lives and high-waisted pants that showed people's class. I might not be a woman, but I know how to dress like one from the 1940s, which, by the way, they were all about creating an image with nipped high tops, broad shoulders, and knee skirts. That was an everyday look for women, which ranged from dresses to suits. Also, fashion in the 1940s, specifically women's, was all about the hourglass figure, which was broad shoulders, tiny waist, and big hips. Children's fashion during the 1940s was very close to a man's. Boys, for example, would wear short trousers combined with long socks, all together with a t-shirt or a jacket and a tie that resembled a man's style. Girls, on the other hand, would wear short dresses, usually cotton for an everyday life, or velvet for special occasions. Every kid would normally wear sandals and ankle tops for the normal shoes.
The 1940s were full of music, primarily different types of jazz. However, the decade's music was shaped by the 1930s when the jazz and blues bursted in popularity. The popular culture of the 1930s was characterized by swing music, a type of jazz, formed by large bands, written arrangements, and individual solos. But what made it so popular is that swing music crossed ethnic and racial lines freely, as white, black, and Latino musicians borrowed from each other frequently. By the time the mid-1940s arrived, swing music began to decline in popularity and slowly got replaced by bebop, a type of jazz played by small groups or combos that were made up of trumpets and saxophones. Bebop was developed through jam sessions, which are informal gatherings of musicians where they play, challenge, and learn from each other. These sessions could be held anywhere, someone's house, a bar, or even a nightclub. Although both swing and bebop are different, they both represent the jazz style of music and how it often influenced both decades. World War II had a big effect on sports during the 1940s, which reflected the harsh values and high demand of the war. All men between the ages of 18 and 26 with good health were expected to serve in the Army. This affected most, but not all sports. A lot of the rubber went to war, so sports balls were actually made differently, sometimes affecting play. Baseball and basketball were untouched, and basketball, the player's height made them ineligible for the draft. Baseball was also untouched by the war due to it being one of the most popular sports in the time. In fact, FDR signed the green light letter that signaled baseball to keep going even with wood shortage, which made baseball bats hard to have during this time period. Jackie Robinson was a big part of baseball in the 1940s and was the first African American to play baseball professionally. He had much racial discrimination directed towards him and helped pave the way for a civil rights movement.
Entertainment during the 1940s also consisted of much cinematography. There were many popular movies of the decade that shaped the film industry. Casablanca was the most popular movie released in 1942, and it takes place in Casablanca, Morocco during the early days of World War II. when an expatriate meets a former lover with unforeseen complications. It's a Wonderful Life is another popular movie of the time, released in 1946, and it introduces an angel that helps one lonely businessman and shows him how life would be if he wasn't living.
Television was also a major part of entertainment during the 1940s. Although the decade can be considered the youth of television, many shows that we all know today were born during this time. For example, Tom and Jerry, an American animated series of short films, was created in 1940, and it creates a rivalry between Tom the Cat and Jerry the Mouse. The style of the cartoon is based around a slapstick comedy.
The 1940s was a decade filled with dramatic events and changes, and as America focused on the war, society began to mold into what it is today.